Twitter is a fantastic platform. It's the one that's reached the public consciousness along with Facebook, down to the fact that so many celebrities like Stephen Fry have used it. And while most people are familiar with what it can do, it may be worth just having a quick look at the functionality that you can have with Twitter. Twitter at heart allows you to send 140 characters, the same way you would send a text message to a platform, to the Twitter platform. And normally that can be twitter.com, or it can be a tool like Hootsuite or TweetDeck. And people follow each other's tweets. You don't send a tweet to one person. You put a tweet out there and it's public. And it can very much be your thoughts on something you're doing, details of where you are, a link to something you've found of interest, or as you build up people on Twitter, two people who are following you, and you can have a conversation that way. But you always have to make sure it's addressed to the other person. Now, Twitter, if you use it through twitter.com, has a very straightforward breakdown. As with all social media sites, there's the large middle area which shows you most of the updates, and there's some details around the side. Your account settings are up the top, again standard for most social media sites. You can have an about photo at the top, details of your username and profile, and down the side you can have a picture profile, a picture in as a bit of background decoration. It's a very straightforward and easy to use platform, which in part attributes for its popularity, and it's popular across the globe, as this shows, and it shows that it's not just confined to the English language as well. The Japanese love it, the Portuguese love it, Spain, Dutch, Korean, in Brazil as well. Usage has gone through the roof recently, and this shows again, it's a global platform. No, not everyone will use it, not everyone will be on it, but a considerable number of people will. And for the Twitter newbie, there's a couple of handy phrases to know. A tweet is what you send out, basically like a text message. A retweet is when you take someone else's tweet and send it back out there. Retweeting is a very simple thing to do. Most pieces of software that use Twitter gives you the option to send a retweet. When you're following someone, it's perfectly self-explanatory what that is. It means you're getting their updates, you're seeing what they're doing. And followers are people who follow you. And an @ reply is very obvious, sending a message to someone. And other definitions that can be quite handy include the idea of the hashtag, which is where you find out about things which are important, and we'll come back to these. And lots of people can use hashtags to cover events, or to give some details at an event, or just to keep a common joke running. Twitter also gives you options for lists, and this means you can set up groups of people that are worth following. Twitter lists give you the option to see or keep a group of people together that you might find of interest. For example, a bunch of journalists, or a bunch of sports people, or something along those lines. Politicians, friends, family. It does the same functionality as lists in Facebook and circles in Google+. A DM is a direct message, normally sent by adding D or DM in front of whatever you want to send, and that in theory can only be seen by one person if you send it properly. And another thing which is popular within Twitter is this idea of trending topics. This shows you, what people are talking about most commonly across the globe, or you can also set it so that you find out nearby what people are speaking about. If something's trending, it's normally a sign of popularity, and that's been widely discussed. And as a little tip, if you're wanting to get stuff trending, it can be an idea in the UK and in Scotland to be, get it trending early in the morning, say 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. Because while you're doing that, the likes of the US are asleep, so you're not competing with anything that might suddenly start to trend once the majority of America wakes up and starts talking about things. Now, Twitter's obviously not the only platform that offers this sort of service. There's Identica, there's Yammer, and there's Plurk, and even then, there are more than that as well. But Twitter is the one that's caught the public's imagination, and it seems to be the keeper. And the one thing to bear in mind is Twitter is not a private messaging platform as such. It's not like BlackBerry Messenger or anything like that. No, most of the work of what you do is expected to be seen publicly and across the globe. However, you can have options if you want to set your account to private. Now, if you want to get started in Twitter, for anyone listening to this who doesn't have an account as of yet, it's extremely simple. You go to twitter.com, click on the sign up button and follow the instructions. It talks you through it in an incredibly simple and straightforward way. And details that you have to put in, which you don't 100% have to put in, but as with all profiles, including the ones on LinkedIn, Facebook, Google Plus and so on, you want to add as much information as possible. So you want to have an account name, you want to put in a little bit of biographical details, an image of yourself, and if it's a professional account, you may want it to be a picture of your face, but with some corporate logo either on the clothing you're wearing or just embedded into the picture. And the things to bear in mind if you're setting off and you're just going, well, I don't even know what I want as my Twitter ID, then you have to sit and give it a little bit of thought, because you don't want to have perhaps your Twitter ID as Randy Boy or Randy Girl or Kinky Boots or something like that if you're going to be using it in a professional capacity. Because imagine how it would feel if you met a chief executive of some company and he says, oh, you're on Twitter, I wouldn't mind following you, how can I find you? And you say, oh, you can find me at Kinky Boots. While that may be a bit of fun, maybe a bit of humour, it doesn't exactly necessarily set the best sort of example for you. And something else to consider, if you're setting an account up for your work or you're running your work's Twitter strategy, is it worthwhile having everyone with a works name? So say your company was called Butcher, could you be Butcher Bob, Butcher John, Butcher Jill, Butcher Sarah, or Sarah Butcher, John Butcher, and so on, in the same way that STV, ITV, Sky all have the BBC or Sky name in front or at the back of their professional working names. Again, this is just something you have to consider. If it's something you're using more just for personal use, then there's absolutely no harm whatsoever in just giving yourself a daft name. But just remember, bear in mind that people will consider that name to be you or a part of you or an expression of yourself. So don't go calling yourself Wild Child if you're an absolute dullard. And it's another thing to bear in mind with this is try and keep it all to one word and as short as possible. The shorter it is, the easier it is for people to remember. And also, if you're avoiding characters like underscores and so on, you save people jumping about keyboards looking for certain things just to try and, find your actual details. And again, this is something that comes up, you can be found on Google if you can be consistent across your brand. If your name is John Smith, try and have johnsmith.com, try and have a Twitter ID, John Smith, facebook.com/John Smith. This all plays a part. Again, this idea, nothing online lives in a vacuum, and you should be going for the idea of having it all joined up, all together, and all working to maximise your digital presence. And again, if you're stuck for something as a name, why not even see what your keywords are and grab some of them, or use one of those that can be handy. If you're a whiskey company, why not call yourself Whiskey, whatever your name is. If you're a vodka company, do the same. If you run a bar, you could even have yourself as Cocktail something, or Pub, and then your name. It's entirely up to you, but again, this idea of keeping it consistent, having it mesh with what you already have is a very good professional approach to have. And an example of this working well, of SEO being used as part of all of this, is in the Mashable Twitter address at twitter.com/Mashable. And Mashable is a website that talks about digital activity, digital engagement, social media, technology trends, and so on. And when you look at their biog, it says digital, social media, business tech, entertainment, and mobile news from Mashable.com, the top resource for web culture. And that covers it. Mashable saying it's about digital, social media, business, tech, entertainment, and mobile news is very, very, it hits the spot. So try and aim for that sort of thing when you're pulling together your Twitter name and your biography. Because again, this all pays off if it's joined up and done properly. Now, if you're struggling for a name or an ID, you can go to sites like tweexchange.com and they will have a look. And if you give them a fee, they'll tell you when a username becomes available. And similarly, they'll also have a look for you and see if a website name is available. And again, the idea just being you can try and get these names for yourself, or you can go away and try and come up with something else. Because bear in mind that even if you get in touch with Twitter and say that you want the name, then you're not necessarily guaranteed to get it. Twitter's under no obligation to hand it to you and say, yeah, okay, there you go. And also, Twitter can be slow at times to come back and give you, the permission or to give you the login that's necessary. Now, for celebrities, there's this thing called a verified account, and the big difference is you'll see a white tick in a sort of blue octagon in the right hand corner via the official twitter.com pages, and all that tells you is that there's been some checks carried out to see if someone is official, to see if it is the real person and not someone spoofing, because lots of celebrities have had problems with pages being set up. And again, if you're working with a celebrity or for a celebrity, this can be quite a good thing to do, and it can save some hassle, especially in this age of tech savvy, disgruntled staff and so on. But it's not just for individuals that this can be an issue. It also happens to companies. ExxonMobil, one of America's largest companies, suffered this problem in August 2008 when a spoof page was set up, and this caused all sorts of problems, which were happily resolved. But it does show to brands, that there can be a danger, and if nothing else, it can be putting them in a negative light. And if you're a brand who's affected by someone spoofing you, in all honesty, the best way to handle it, the best advice I can offer you is to take it with good grace and humour and make sure that the site does say it is a spoof. It is meant to do so, but some claim to forget that little thing for them. But for most of them, they play it by the rules, and there's unless they're doing something that's causing you harm, you don't really have much sort of options in the way of legalities or attacking them to get pages brought down. And like all things, Twitter has user guidelines. So if you do want to try and get an account brought down, you have to go around these sort of points when getting in touch with Twitter. Talking about, have you been impersonated? Twitter also won't let you sell the usernames unless you go through Twitter. Now, it does happen, because at the end of the day, all you're passing over is a login and a password. But officially, Twitter doesn't approve of it. Similarly, Twitter reserves the right to reclaim usernames on behalf of businesses or individuals that may be coming to Twitter late. And this is perhaps quite a good moment to bring something up, in that Twitter accounts are never completely yours. There's a court case going on in the States about this at the moment, involving what one person did with an account. But in theory, and when you sign up for the account, it forever remains the property of Twitter. The best way to think of it is that you're leasing it, you're borrowing it for the lifetime that you want to use it. But there would be nothing to stop Twitter just stopping it, changing your name, changing your picture, because technically they are the owners of the account. Now, one thing you can do, as we saw with the Stephen Fry illustration earlier, is you can give yourself a background. And this is something you should try and do more with, because even though about less than half of the people on Twitter actually use twitter.com, you can use it. You can use it to include contact information, more details about you, more details about your company, and use these things as a winner for yourself. And there we'll just see some examples of sites and pages you can go to get some background images. Some people don't necessarily bother purely because they don't intend to have a lot of people engage with them via twitter.com. Lots of people engage via TweetDeck, Co-Tweet, Hootsuite, and a number of other tools and platforms. But if you do it, try and add some extra good salient information. For example, let's have a look at Mashables. And if you see there, it's got some contact details down the side. There is in a bit better detail, and it gives you details of how to find them on StumbleUpon, how to find them on YouTube, how to send stories into Mashable. And that's good information. That is good extra information for people who want to use it. Of course, you can't click on any of those links because it's just a JPEG graphic, but it's handy just to present that information there. And it's not just Mashable, obviously. American Airlines has it as well. And if you close up a little, you can see that, it's where else you can find them in social media. It's what else you can find online with them. And, what the site's about and what the Twitter account is and isn't used for. So, again, a very good, very nice idea. Now, if you're going to use Twitter, we've already mentioned that not everyone uses twitter.com. There are also options like Co-Tweet, which let you set it up a little bit more like an email inbox, and you can schedule tweets, you can reply to tweets, you can assign tasks to other people as well. It's a very useful tool, and it can be used by any size of company, from the small 2, 3, 4, 5 people size up to the larger firms, and it has been very, very popular, though some people are starting to object to it because it's being claimed that the free service is being withdrawn, and it's hoped by some people that Co-Tweet will change their mind on this, but it's looking more and more likely that Co-Tweet won't have a free option and everything within it will actually be a paid for service. Now, other services you can use as well include the likes of Hootsuite, which allows for multiple streams on one page, and it gives you a lot more options. You get to see a lot more information with it than you would through a standard twitter.com login. And it's not the only one like that. There's TweetDeck, there's Digsby there, there's Brizzly. The best advice you can have is to play about with these. Work with all of them, have a wee dabble and see which one works the best for you. I'm quite a fan of Hootsuite, though they keep changing the services and the products so much that at some point soon I may actually consider TweetDeck again or see what else is out there. And this is just an example showing you a normal twitter.com and then how that something similar would look on Hootsuite. And the idea, as you can see there, on Stephen Fry's page, you've got just this one stream of information. There you have 3 streams of information being updated on a regular basis. And again, it's the same sort of idea over in TweetDeck. Now the colouring's slightly different, but you've got all the tabs showing, you've got the streams of information, all the latest stories, and a little biography picture to the side. But how do you find people on Twitter? Obviously, it's one thing for you to set up an account, but that doesn't guarantee the rest of the world is going to think to come and find you. And there's a number of ways of doing it, not just for you as an individual, but also for your company and for your organisation. And as with all things involving social media, it can be a good idea to sit down and just plan what you're wanting from this. Know what your goals are, know what the definition of a success is, and things that you can ask yourself when kicking off is, who is your target audience? Is your target audience even on Twitter? Is there a potential audience for you on Twitter? And are you going to target people who have a specific job or who work in a specific sector? What are you going to have there as your content? You can't really just throw out one tweet a day and leave it like that. People like a lot more. You don't need to send a tweet a minute, but people do like engagement. Not everyone's on Twitter at the same time, so you need to make sure you've got a balance of tweets there for across the world so that people can find them and engage with them. And you might be thinking there, well, hang on, why don't people just catch up with all my tweets? Purely because if they're following a bunch of people, if you put out a tweet at 9:05, it's only going to appear to people who were monitoring Twitter at 9:05. Even if you're in some sort of list or something, it may well be that by the time they check the list, there's been a lot more updates from other people, and as such, your tweet is off the screen. So it's something to bear in mind, when even doing a campaign, or even when launching a product, or even just wanting to do general engagement. Schedule your tweets out throughout the day. You don't have, as I say, you don't have to have them scheduled for every 5 minutes, but you could schedule one an hour, and then see how you get on from there. And if you do scheduled tweets, something to bear in mind is try not to schedule them for on the hour, 1/4 past, 1/2 past, or 1/4 to. And that's purely because a number of automated tweet systems do that, and it means there's less chance of your tweet being seen, and there's also less chance of your tweet being considered authentic and from a human being if it's going out at these sort of spammy times. Now, there's 3 main ways to try and find people on Twitter. In fact, as we speak, no doubt someone's working on more. And you can look within Twitter. You can use other search engines and other websites. Even blogs may have a list of people worth following on Twitter, and Twitter directories. And we'll have a little look through all of them. And this is the idea, Twitter search, and it can be a good kick-off place because you can search for quite a lot. Some people think Twitter search is quite basic, but it's come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, in that they've bought more people, they've bought more experts, they've brought them in to sort of revamp the search facility and make it far more powerful. As it says there, you can search for a considerable number of things. You can go by usernames, by hashtags, by brand names. And something to always keep in mind is that Twitter will search by real names as well. It will search for the real name that's put in details in twitter.com. But if you haven't put that information in, then it's going to be a bit harder to find someone. As always with many of these platforms, there is assumption that someone's being completely honest and completely above board with their details when they set up an account. But online, you can also do a fairly advanced search. And as that list shows there, you can search for so many things. You can search in specific languages, for specific phrases, links, retweets. There's quite a lot of options there to make life, more easy for you.
the tower awaits. Dad, wait! Don't come in just yet.
Fantastic. I'm so impressed, honey. I'm liking the tower chaos. Will we build more towers tonight, Abigail? Sounds good to me. Okay, so where are we? Now you can use Twitter topic searches for a lot of things, and obviously as well finding people, conversations. Most people are now familiar with the ideas of how to use search, so there's no point in really dwelling too much on that. And the good thing about Twitter when it comes to people is that it will try and give you other suggestions or help you find people you might be looking for. So if you are trying to build a following, there's no harm in using all of these tools to make life easier for yourself. Because remember, digital is meant to make your life easier, not harder. Now, there are other search engines you can use, like Tweet Search and TweetDir, just amongst some of the options that are available for people looking for information. And they also have nice little tricks in some of them. For example, TweetDir has some nice helpful top lists to help you find people by category or by most popular sort of settings. And other tools you can use are yellow pages type functionality like Twello and WeFollow. And this is what Twello looks like, and it's very, very useful. Twello also has a functionality called Twello Hood, and that can show you the number of Twitter followers in your area, and it will also show you who they are so that you can get in touch with them. And the thing is, these sites are very popular, but what to bear in mind is that to be found on them, to be found on WeFollow, to be found on Twello, you need to sign up for them. and you need to know what categories to place yourself in so that you can be found by others. And one thing that's really good about WeFollow is that it will tell you who's the most influential as well as who has the most followers when you're trying to build up that sort of list for people that you might want to engage with. And a good tactic, is to jump onto WeFollow and follow back the top 25 most influential, but then also, just to cover yourself, go and follow the top 25 most followers as well. And then if you want, go back once a week, check to see if there's any changes and amend and adjust accordingly. If you're really wanting to be thorough, and this isn't for everyone, you could go and, in the case of this example, click on LDN, go and find who the 74 new followers are and grab them. Just go and follow all of them as well and hope that they follow you back. Twibble is another option for trying to expand your follower base. And what that does is, if you're following someone on Twitter, it lists the people they're following. And then that way you can start using that network to expand, find more followers, and find more people to follow you as well. Now, Twitter, obviously, as with all things, people want to know how influential you are, how important a person is, are they worth spending time getting in touch with, if you're spending some PR or marketing money on them, what makes you evaluate one tweeter as being better or more useful than another tweeter. And there's a couple of ways of doing it. Unsurprisingly, there are companies that will determine Twitter influence for you. There are tools which will do that for you. And you can also just go, well, they've got 10,000 followers. They're more important than someone with 5,000 followers. But what you have to bear in mind, as with blogs, as with Facebook, as with LinkedIn, is it depends on the value of follower. I mean, for example, one person may only have 100 following them, but if there's 100 chief executives of companies, that may be the target audience for your brand. Having said that, if you're going for something more mass market, you may be chasing people who have hundreds or millions of followers so that they can then reply, send a tweet out that gets you fantastic coverage and a phenomenal return on new followers. Again, you just need to know what you want and how much you want to put into this in terms of time. Other statistics to bear in mind is the number of people who are following against followers. For example, lots of people might have 20,000 people following them, but they're following 20,000 people themselves. And what lots of people assume there is that someone has followed them and then followed them back. And if you've been on Twitter for a long time, many people tell you that was the old school way of doing it. That was the very early ways of being nice. Someone followed you, you followed them back. It was all very polite. But in recent times, there's been more of a shift towards this idea of, perhaps you've got 100 people that you follow, but you've got 10,000 followers, and that makes you look very elite, very selective about who you give your time back to. And there's no right or wrong way in doing this, to be quite honest. It's just what suits you, what suits your brand, what suits your personality. Because at the end of the day, there's no one holding a gun to your head to say that you have to engage with every person or you have to follow the home stream as such. Now, another tool that's very popular is Clout, and Clout has a matrix to show whether you're a climber, you're casual, you're a connector, or you are perhaps an expert. And many people find it useful as a comparison tool. They'll compare themselves against someone else, or they'll compare a bunch of bloggers and see who's got the best Clout score, and then invite them along to an event or give them review samples and so on. And that's a nice idea. It's a nice thought. But as with many online measurement metrics, Clout can very easily be gamed and can very easily be schooled. One thing that Clout takes as a determination of your popularity is how, for a start, one thing it takes is other logins. So you have to give it your Facebook details, and so on. And one thing it measures is Last FM, which is really nothing more than a glorified sort of Spotify. It's online music, and to me, I really don't care about someone's online music or their reputation on an online music score when I'm dealing with them. So it may well be that, if someone's got a high clout, perhaps it's because they like Pat Benatar a lot on Last FM. So it's something to bear in mind when looking at these stats. Never look at one figure or even one or two figures and take it as an absolute truth. You look at other things like how often they're retweeted, how many people give them mentions on Follow Friday, and to an extent also just go with your instinct. If you're reading someone's tweets and think, yeah, you're quite appropriate for my brand, or you could be quite useful to my brand, then by all means just grab them and go for it. Another reason that clout can be gamed as well, and this is just a warning though, some people do it as a fair tactic just to try and boost their score, is you can put something controversial out there, something that lots and lots of people are going to retweet and credit back to you. The clout algorithm looks at that and goes, hey, lots of people are taking that tweet from that person and putting it out there. They're just taking it. It's not two-way engagement. This person must be really popular to have all these other people blasting that out there. And therefore, let's raise their clout score. So that's something else to bear in mind. And a last little note on it is that clout often changes its algorithms. To be fair, most online services do, but clout's thinking is this is to try and prevent people gaming it, because you'll see people out there spending huge amounts of time just trying to improve their clout score, and they're not trying to do it so that it helps a client or any other reason. They're just trying to do it so that they've got a big number, or they've been told to get a high clout score, and they go through the very mechanical process of trying to boost it. And it can also take a lot of time, and at the end of the day, you're not on there for that reason. You have a clout, so you have a Twitter presence to try and engage, to converse with people, to share things, both your insight and other people's insight, and make sure that you enjoy it as well. But if you're doing it for business, another aim to remember is try and find ways of making it profitable for you. And one thing you've got to bear in mind is that a lot of these companies won't tell you how they get their figure. You may have a clout of 80. If there was a new tool called Squiggly, you may get a Squiggly score of 100, and you go, wow, that's brilliant. But you don't know how these things are calculated. It would be unfair to say that they're just totally fabricated numbers plucked out the air. But at the same time, they should never be a be-all and end-all for you when you're doing your research into people. Pardon me. Now, when building a following, you have to accept that very few people, unless you're a Lady Gaga or a Barack Obama or so on, that you're going to be able to just say, hello, we're on Twitter, and then like Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams, build it and everyone rushes to you. It takes engagement, it takes following, it takes time. And obviously, one thing you want to do when you kick off is have an idea of a number you like. Perhaps you might look at a competitor and go, hey, they've got 5,000 followers and they've been on Twitter for 2 years. So let's haphazard a guess that perhaps at the end of the first year they had 2,500. So barring any large sort of spike moments, that's roughly 200, 250 a month. So why don't we aim for around about that? And if you want to make life easy for yourself, say let's have 100 a month and take it from there. Or you can go, no, let's go for the 200, 250 mark and make sure we're getting that number of people following us back every month. On that note, when you start following people, you have to be aware that once you hit certain limits, you can't follow any more people until your ratio catches up. So, for example, you can't follow more than 2,000 people until the number of people you have as followers hits a similarly high mark. And after that, it's advised that you always try and keep within a sort of 10-15% of each other. But there's nothing to stop you following more people if you choose so. And it's always useful to remember why you're using Twitter. It's all too easy for people just to go, oh, just bash that tweet out and off it goes. But it can do you well to consider, why you're using it, what the goals are, what the aims are, what your intentions are, and what will be success for you. And very similarly, includes the baseline sort of tools you would do for any platform. Who do you want to talk to? Why do you want to talk to them? What are you going to provide for people to follow you? Because, someone may see you appear in a Twitter list or in their Twitter stream, and they'll go, oh, who is this person? I've never heard of them. I'll go and see what their tweets are like. And that's where someone will make the judgment on whether or not to follow you back. So you always have to make sure that you've got tweets that are timely, relevant, and, above all else, interesting. Never forget the interesting bit. So many people actually do. Now, one company that used Twitter quite well is Match.com, and their activity was not basic, it was functional. Because, again, with Twitter, there's only so much you can do, but it's how you do it that can make a difference for you. And, they searched for mentions of Match.com, and they replied to people who did that. They also replied to people who got in touch with them via their Twitter account, and they would keep that relationship going. They would also respond to queries and deal with customer issues. And none of that is brain surgery. In fact, to be fair, in 2012, that's pretty much what any company on Twitter should be doing. That's not the hard part of it. And it worked for them, They got 11,000 followers, high-level engagement, and people enjoyed engaging with them. And that reflected positively for the whole of the Match.com brand. And that's a win because, again, just as a blog lets you be casual in your writing on a website, Twitter lets you be a very conversational, human, upfront and personable type for relating to people and relating with people. Now, someone who did it a little bit different is Betfair Poker, and again, their goal is to raise awareness of Betfair Poker, boost the profile, but also to engage with players and potential players. But they didn't do the standard tactic that many would have done of here's a bunch of links to things about Twitter, here's things about poker, and then some random chat about other tweets they've spotted or tweets replying to their followers. They went for the slightly more surreal approach of posting random little snippets of soap opera, more or less. So that what you got was information along the lines of what Betty in the office was having for lunch. Now, there'd be no such person as Betty. It was just a bit of fun, just a bit of drama, and even better, they poked a lot of fun at social media, deflating that sort of self-important bubble that can come up around it. And this worked very well for them. They quadrupled their Twitter following, it increased their brand image. You've got people like me mentioning them here in presentations, and it's gained them a large amount of publicity outside of Twitter. Not just as how to do it. From time to time they'll say something controversial or something that's aimed at attracting a little bit of publicity, and it works. And good luck to them. They have lots of followers who don't really have an interest in poker, but may do it occasionally. And they've managed to hook the random market very, very well with that. So good luck to them. Another company that's done quite well with it is Etsy. Now, this is an online selling space, and their idea was, what can we do with Twitter that works? We don't want to just broadcast news about Etsy because people really don't like that on Twitter. They don't like people just going me, 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 or buy, this please. So what they thought was, let's make it about the people that come to Etsy. The people that sell products on Etsy. Let's help promote them. And that's what they've done, and it's paid off very, very well for them. More than 1.4 million followers. They're helping others to sell their things. They're helping others to make money. This is a good thing. And as well, something that can't be underemphasized is this idea that it helps promote the community. Not just for Twitter on Etsy and people who like Etsy on Twitter. It also promotes the overall sense of community for Etsy. And again, that helps people build brand loyalty. It helps them want to stick with it. It helps them want to engage. And again, that all helps to drive a business function, which is a very, very good thing. Now, a company that's been a bit more laid back about it is Zappos, which, wanted to get lots of followers and has always said it's about getting lots of followers so that it can extend its brand values. And what's quite interesting is that Zappos has pretty much the whole company online. There's none of this, here's just one Twitter spokesman. Pretty much everyone that works at the place tweets in some form of capacity. And the other thing that's quite stand out is that they very rarely mention their products. They don't ever directly do a hardcore push. And it's paid off for them again. Nearly 2 million followers. Every tweet receives upwards of 100 retweets. And that's the sort of thing, that tweet there shows an example of what you get. Now, you may either think that's fantastically inspirational or just far too American and saccharine to be of use to you. But the point is that this has worked for them for reaching out and getting a global audience. And again, if you are aiming for a little more local market, you have to adjust your goals accordingly. Don't expect 1.8 million followers if you just want to sell to people in sterling, for example. It's something that's very worthwhile, bearing in mind. Now, when it comes to engagement, there's many forms of engagement. You can engage with the press, you can engage with the day-to-day tweeter or the normal blogger. And in essence, the rules are the same. We are past this idea of bloggers being, something that are under journalists or people you bring in to fill up the back of a room for a launch event. Now, that bloggers are very, very important. They get the same sort of accreditation rights as press. Yet, that sort of idea, does it extend to then you deal with influential tweeters? Do you deal with influential LinkedIns? But sorry, I digress there. To stick with the idea of engagement, on Twitter, as with all sort of pitches, do your homework, make sure the person's up for being pitched to, and do it publicly. Now, again, this might seem a bit iffy. You might be going, well, hang on, what if I want to tell them about a confidential launch, or what if I want to tell them about something offline? Just get in touch and ask for a DM. But there's no harm in just saying, hi, here's my details, get in touch. Or, hi, we offer this service. If you'd like to know more, or hi, we've just launched this new service, please get in touch. These things aren't hard. Again, it's just about not being too pushy, about not being too much in the face. Just treat people, again, as with all things social media, treat them as you would like to be treated yourself. Don't over harass them by tweets. Don't send a tweet, then an email, then a phone call, all within the space of 5 minutes. Give people a chance. And if you do make your tweet public, try and include a link to further information. Because not only will the journalist that you've sent it to see it, other people following you or other people following you and the journalist will get to see that link as well. And hopefully they'll all click on it, or they'll all be interested by it to find out a bit more about what you're offering. Now, very straightforward points for tweeting. The rule is that you have 140 characters. And while that's true, there are some services out there that can let you type longer tweets, but you should always try and keep a tweet as short as possible. And if you can, don't go above 120 characters. This is so that someone can easily just hit retweet, and it means your tweet's away out there elsewhere. Because if you're at 140 characters and someone then has to retweet it with your name attached, it's going to be around 158 sort of characters, and they're then going to have to start editing, and that can take time. They may not want to, they just saw something you'd said, really liked it and wanted to quickly retweet it, but you've put a barrier up for that content to be shared. So where possible, always try and keep it on the err on the side of caution and shortness, and keep it to under 120 where possible. And use shorteners like bitly.com. If you want to get a bit more space, use emoticons. If you want to, feel free to even go and have like 2 and 4 in instead of the words 2 and 4. But if it's a business account, you might want to consider the fact that if you do that, then it's going to look a bit more, not amateur, but it's going to be a bit more, not juvenile, but it's going to look a bit more teen, bit more relaxed. It's definitely not going to look professional. So it's something you may want to keep in mind. Hello, how are you? Still sounding hoarse. Still sounding hoarse. I don't just get a sore throat. Everybody's got it. Karen's actually lost her voice completely. Abigail's like, right, Mum, I'm just going to do this, milking it. So that's that. And what can I do you for? You sure? Or you kind of just keeping yourself as a sucker for punishment here, or? That's all. We might keep this up. I might start enjoying Brian's shift change at this case. Hang on, I'm just going to sign language my wife and see if I can get a reply. Oh, she's not getting the sign language bit. On Saturday, kiddies, would you like to go and stay at your gran's? Gran.
Gran what?
Gran and Granda. Did you hear that overly enthusiastic answer there from Abigail? That was it, okay. Well, but Abigail, you can stay, the boys can stay at Gran and Granda's.
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, that got our attention quick enough. Norman says hello. Aye, I didn't really. I was up yesterday. Left in the darkness, come back in the darkness. One of those. But I'd been joking went up with Ian, and I was joking when I went. I wonder what time it'll be. We got there at 9:30. I wonder, if my uncle was standing outside the pub. No sign him, but jumps out at 11:15, and there he was. I was like, that'll teach me to joke. No. He can't get his money out his pocket quick enough every time I'm there. No. I'll walk in, he's like, do you want a drink? And I'm like, no, I'll get you one for all the time I see you. And he's like, no. And I'm like, look, just let me get it then. I was like, right, I've had a pint, I'm away. Because Ian was driving. And then Big John, the chef that was in, we went, no, hold on, I'll get you a pint. And I went, oh, well, alright then. And every time Norman's like, no, let me get you a pint. And then eventually just gave the lassie the money and went, tell them they're having another pint, and there it is. So that was him. But I didn't realise he'd said he was going to come down to try and look after Mary. But apparently, I don't know who he was on the phone to, but because he's like, how's Mary? And I went, she's better. She's still just living off digestive biscuits. But, she's alright. And he didn't know about Auntie Margaret, so I was telling him that. And he went, I'd said on the phone I was going to come down, but I was told not to bother. I've no idea. I was quite convinced that the comfort. She's not going to say, come on down. So that was that. And he's like, nobody replied to my Christmas cards. Did they get them? And I just went, oh, the Waynes might have ripped them up. You know what they're like. And then I thought there's just no way. I'm just not getting into that one. And then I went, hey, and what about the money you never sent us? Was that in it? I did. Aye, he's like that. It was in it, honest. Or maybe he thinks now that he's buying me drinks, that pies it out. So, aye, very slowly. As bad as his then. I know, so, but that was him. He's still just plodding on, staying with Dot in Port Lethen. So there you go. But I couldn't get away from him. He's like, "Go stay and have another drink." Like, no, why keep down the road? So there you go. Friendly Uncle Norman sends his regard. Skinny and shaky. It's just always the same. I'd take you up, but sod's law, that'd be the one time he doesn't go into his pub. I'll take a picture next time. Oh no, honestly, it just looks the same as he did at your wedding. You know what way you're just like, I. Still, I mean, he's kept the hair, which we were kind of going, how'd you manage that? He went, I don't know. He went, it must be the drink. I thought, well, that's that. He's rubbing it into his head, and I thought, no, that wouldn't have been his style. He'd have grudged it. So that was that, but no other gossip apart from that. You enjoying your day off? You're kidding. Everybody else is taking it easy, and you're on your luck. No luck at all. Well, we think Sam's finally starting to get better. He slept to 6. While Adam's nose has stopped from going like a river to just like a trickle. He's just like that. And Abigail's been immune to it all, which means she'll probably come down with all the mora and it'll start all her again. She just goes like that, leave me alone. I'm just going to my bed. I just want chocolate in my bed. You're like that, that's fine. So there you goes. But as I say, nothing, not any other drama that I can think of apart from that. I told you my dad wasn't in the club on Sunday. I goes in, it's just one of his mates sitting there going, they're not here. And I thought, well, I can't, now that I've went in and I've seen you, I can't just turn round. So I was like, oh, well, I'll sit with you for a pint for 10 minutes. And I was like, well, I'll get you one back. And then somebody came in and went, oh, they're away at Airdrie. It's like, right. Nice of them to tell us. but Delia was still there. That was the punchline. Delia was there herself. No, at the club there, up the road. No. I was a bit of a horror. I popped my head out and she clocked me and I didn't even go and say hello, but I just went, I can't be bothered. Life's too short. But I know it was a bit hard. Honestly, Stevie Wonder, couldn't you say you never saw her? That old chestnut. So that was that, but I've not heard from him since, so I can only no, he can't, he's not allowed to. It's too old a motor. He'll need to get a new motor before he can do that. I can't remember, but it's because Karen had that problem before as well. She had, I think it was K8 WAT, and it's because I think the plate's registered as, well, last year now. It's got to be in a motor that's registered, last year or newer. Because you can't put the plate on and make it look as if your motor's younger than it really is. Oh, no idea. No idea. You know what he's like. Look, I insisted on the flight details for the holiday just to make sure. I like that way. At least I know what airport to be at in the off chance. The 13th of March. So 5 weeks, and then all going well, I'll be back in 6 weeks. I've been watching that Benidorm ER and going, but not many people seem to make it out of this place in one piece. You don't want to start watching it. Yeah, I'm sitting just going, oh no. And what's hilarious is I pulled Google Earth up on my laptop the last time. The one that lets you see right at a street level. So I'm probably going to come back with some form of thrombosis, I think, because they only seem to walk about 50 yards. My dad's like that. There's a hotel, there's the pub we go to, and there's the other pub, and then we go back to the hotel. And I was like, oh, honestly, aye, just for a change. On it, I think it's, one must face east, but one must face west. It's so they can work in their tan. Honestly, there's more walking from your house to here and back again. And the thing is, they'll get a taxi still, don't you? Aye. It'll be a laugh. It'll be a hoot. It'll be a something. So I take it as Brian off on Saturday then, aye? No, well, no, not 2 days in a row. Good God. What happened? Is he no shattered? That's hard going, man. Mm-hmm. That's wild. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. He'd be bored if he was in the house. I'm just not saying that to his face in case he hits me. I bang on. The following week, Madam's away, Anya's no for an overnight, but they're just going to have a girly Saturday afternoon. But that would be bang on. Poor soul. Oh. I know, we'll just bring them up at night time or something. We'll sort something out. No bother. Okie dokies. Right, I'll speak to you later. Thanks for that. See you later. Love you. Bye bye. Hello, big man. That was short and sweet. Exactly. Aye. Right. 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 Oh, was this the guy, mummy and daddy's farm? Right. Aye. Right. Aye. Right. That's fair dues. Aye. Aye. Fair play. Oh, oh, for Christ's sake. I can just picture me going, where's the fucking deer? Aye. Fair enough.
Speaking about consultation and,
Aye.
what things to be done, he's also got close by him, his next door neighbour's got a big berry farm.
Right.
Scott Herbs is near him as well.
Right.
So he's happy to kind outside of the seaside one that'll
Yeah.
probably won't happen till later in the year.
Aye.
And when the berries start as well, he's happy to like take Ian up for the day,
Ah, smashing.
play host, and not only do a wee game demonstration,
Aye.
shooting,
Ah, brilliant.
taking the feathers off and gutting and all that.
Aye.
He'll also take you around like Scott Herbs.
Be handy.
You get herbs from like any veg guys here, like big growers. He's learned a bit about that.
Aye.
Look at on the website and around berry farm next door to them because we get their berries.
Right, cool.
Because it's easy. They pick berries in the morning,
Aye, and just sends them down.
and they go on to Jeremy's van and split almost out your profit. Then you just because it takes it to the next door neighbour.
Aye.
So if I order like 4 pints of raspberries from the mountain, instead of getting something that's been shipped about,
Aye.
I get stuff that his pickers have picked at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So it's good and fresh.
On lunchtime in here.
Brilliant.
So that would be, this is what, this is demonstrating what we can do.
Aye. Aye. No, that's bang on. We can use that in a bundle of us.
As far as a first base,
Aye.
it was a cracking one, you know what I mean?
Oh, no half. Aye, no, definitely just ping us an email with the boys' details in. I'll make sure if I don't phone him today, I'll phone him tomorrow. Yeah. Could be handy. Aye. Aye. A good few people. Oh, was that the boy that gave you a shout along? Aye. Aye. No, that's fair enough. I would do that. Fair enough. But before you know it, we'll all be doing horse riding and tally-hoing, mate. I cracked that joke to Ian before and he went, I don't think that they plus fours in my size. I'd need to get 2 pairs and just knock a hole in them. Exactly. I know, but brilliant for that, Dave. So send that down, mate, and I'll keep you posted with it. Alrighties. Right, cheers, mate. One over you. Cheers, Dave. Pipes. And again, what you're seeing here is fairly straightforward, how to reply to people. And remember, when you do hit reply to someone, it's something that can be found publicly on the internet for, well, not necessarily for all time, but it's a public statement you're putting out there. So bear in mind, when you're saying something to someone, if you think it might be offensive, either take it to a direct message or perhaps even take it to email, or perhaps, just don't necessarily say it at all. But DMs can be a good way of just having a private engagement with one person. And what to bear in mind is you need to be following each other for both of you to be able to direct message each other. But also, if you're sending DMs by an iPhone app or a BlackBerry app or some other form, not everything has the same way of sending a direct message. Some say put D, some put DM, some say it has to be an uppercase DM. So always check before you're actually sending things that are either risky, confidential, or sensitive. Now, retweeting is a very popular part of Twitter, and it's something that's very topical at the moment because on the day I'm recording this, Sky News has announced that in its social media guidelines for Twitter, they don't want staff retweeting non-Sky staff tweets. And one of the reasons for this is so that they have an element of editorial control or standards over what's being put out there. And in part to prevent situations like where the Glasgow DJ Tiger Tim Stevens was said in December to have died, and it had gone around Facebook, it had definitely gone around Twitter, but it turned out to be a complete hoax. A well-intentioned hoax, but nonetheless a hoax, and one that was quite distressing to a number of people. So Sky have said, well, hang on, if it's something our team's put out, we know it's been to a certain editorial level, it's a piece of factual information by someone trained in, finding factual information and presenting factual information. If Joe Blogger puts something out, we don't know of his background or credentials, so we're not retweeting, because retweets can be seen as an endorsement. Now, some people, myself included, share retweets just to go, here's a piece of information for you, enjoy, all the best. You may agree with it, you may disagree with it, I may agree with it, I may disagree with it. I'm just putting it out there because I found it interesting. That's not necessarily good interesting or bad interesting, it's just interesting. Though sometimes people will add comments on to what they've said about their tweets and retweets as well. And again, just to reiterate this idea, if you're retweeting, make sure it still fits under 140 characters. If you want to spread it out there so that more people retweet it again and again, keep it short as possible, because even retweets and retweets of retweets are stuck to this 140 character limit. And something that's quite interesting and worth bearing in mind is that when you do tweet, or when you do put a retweet out there, it has been found that retweets are more likely to be retweeted than original content. And in part that's because people see that it's been retweeted once and go, I'll retweet again. It's almost a sort of subconscious prompt. And then, that one person tweets it out to their followers, who tweets it out to more followers, who tweet it out to more followers again. And, something else to bear in mind is that you can ask people to retweet. You can just turn around and say, hope you don't mind, but could you retweet this for me? Or RT, please. And see what people say. Quite often people will do it for you. So there's no harm in asking. Just don't do it with absolutely every tweet you put out, because people would find that very boring very quickly, and you'll never build a good following that way. Standard sort of competitions you're seeing at the moment, though, are things like Manchester Airport, which are saying, please retweet this tweet to be entered into a prize draw. And sometimes that'll have a hashtag attached as well. And all they're doing there is at some point they'll pick someone at random to have won a prize. In this case, £500. And that worked for them, and that's fair enough. And that's taking retweets away from the idea of an endorsement. But most times there is this implication that a tweet, or if someone sees a tweet, then clearly it's been passed on because they like it. But bear in mind, as I say, most people will retweet things that provoke all sorts of strong emotions in them, not necessarily just the fact that they like something. Now, Twitter lists are another way of seeing Twitter being used for endorsement. Hello, Abigail. What? Can you give me... Yeah, okay. Hang on a second. 114.
Oh wow, they're lovely. Fantastic. Is that where you take pictures of them? So you've got a wee.
I made that one. I designed, well, Mum made that one, then
Yeah,
I
Mum
chose
was got
this.
photos
Oh,
going and wait a minute. You'll just slide
Nice
this.
your
I
way to
made that one. Mum made that one, and I made that one. Oh, well.
Changed.
Mum made that. Whoa!
Whoops. Yeah. It's alright. No, you'll take pictures. Take pictures. Fantastic.
Mum. Oh, now we can't just sit in some bullshit. It's in the stadium.
Oh, that's a good guy. Bad days
We're
too.
never used to that. It's white sex.
Sometimes.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
You got Tracy on work for tomorrow, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What time? We'll have to pick her up.
Would I like to share your
Going to your
with me
grand's on
online?
Saturday. Yes,
Can you
you
do that?
are. Yes, you are.
What? Are you serious?
Abigail Gran says if the weather's good on Saturday, we'll take you quite early on so you can go to cards and things.
Okay.
Share your what?
Share your designs online.
No, what did you say? Share your
Stuff.
no, that wasn't what you said.
You said share your stuff online.
Very sticky papers which you don't want. You would.
Do you like this?
Did you do that again?
I'm gonna
Do you like
share
little parcel? New presents.
I need to get my earrings.
that. 120.51. 120.54. Now, Twitter lists are also a form of endorsement, and unlike retweets, which can be positive or negative, most people just keep Twitter lists for the positive things. And it's a great way of keeping up to date with specific groups of people, and they're very straightforward to use and set up as well. And if you're using like something along the lines of Hootsuite or TweetDeck, you can import your lists and have a separate tab or a separate stream with them so that you can keep up to date with them at a glance. And if you're in PR or marketing, or even if you work for, a company, it's a great way of keeping an eye on like-minded folk, whether it be people who will work in your accounts department, or people who will write about city councils, or people who are all astronauts. I mean, those are three completely wildly different examples, but the point being, you can have a list for anything and do with it what you want. The thing
bashmcgill.com. My mummy is awesome.
In essence, lists are a very, very useful thing. They're a very, very useful tool. And even better, many lists are public. Now, you don't necessarily need to make them public. I have a habit of making mine private, especially if they're for clients, because I believe that's clients' information, who they choose to follow, and why would they want their competitors jumping in and necessarily nicking at a bunch of sales leads and so on. But, some people think it's more in the social media ethos to be sharing these things, and as such decide to share their lists. And there are tools that can help you as well. Listorious is one such tool. It's pretty much a list of lists. So you can go and find, either topics or people and go, oh, here's the list they're in. That will do me very, very nicely. And they can be a great time saver, because it saves you having to troll about for tweets by certain people if you've got them set up in a list. And it's a very good way, as I said before, of keeping your eyes on certain people or certain sectors or even certain employees. And make sure that people in your organisation know how to use them. You can even have lists set up and not necessarily do anything with them. They could be great for crisis comms or other such like emergencies. You could set up lists of key contacts that you would only reach in an emergency or similar crisis situation. Now, hashtags are a very, very popular thing on Twitter. Most people know the one hashtag FF or hashtag Follow Friday, but in the general election, there was hashtag GE2010 for that. The current sitting of the Scottish Parliament is the 4th sitting, and that goes by the hashtag of hashtag SP4. Now, you put that into a search bar on Twitter or your Twitter tools, and it will come back with every hashtag with that. And that's great. It's a great way of seeing what everyone's saying and not just the people that you're currently following. And hashtags are used to get more information about certain subjects. They can be used at the likes of Tea in the Park to spread information about toilets or band times, food availability, and so on. Some rogues even use them to post about the movements of any cops that they see or details of plainclothes police at Tea in the Park. And for whatever reason that is, I will leave you to speculate. But the point being, it's a great way of sharing information on a theme or a topic. And this is why you see so many TV shows now doing it, because it's an easy way for them to monitor what people are saying on Twitter. And that's why if you have an event or you're trying to, pardon me for the slightly delicate throat, after 107 slides I think it's giving out, but the idea is that if you create a hashtag and you say to people, use this hashtag when talking about us, it makes it easier for you to monitor the conversation, because you just have to follow that hashtag, put it into either a search bar or set up some sort of way of monitoring it, and away you go. And that's fantastic. But bear in mind a couple of things. One, you never own a hashtag, so there's nothing to stop other people coming along and hijacking it. What's up?
There's the computer.
Nope.
Later. Pardon?
What's up, Abigail? Why do you need the computer?
No, I meant later.
Why? What for?
You can only use the hair maker on the computer.
Alright, okay, yeah, you can do it later, but it'll be after 5 o'clock. But yes, when you're setting a hashtag up, make sure it's something short, something memorable, and something that will stick in people's minds. Again, try and stick to a keyword or something relevant. And also, before you tell people to use a hashtag, make sure there's not something similar out there by your competition, or something that you wouldn't want to expose the people using it. You don't want to have something out there that perhaps might, people put it in and then discover it's also being used by a sex show, or some corrupt regime or something. So keep that in mind. And also try never to spam with people. Just because no one owns it, you can certainly jump in with opportunities, but make sure they're brand relevant. Don't be jumping in to details of what's happening in Syria with adverts for new couches. That's just not how it's done, and it just gets you a bad reputation very, very quickly. And if you're wanting to find out what a hashtag means, then there's sites like What the Trend, which will give you a rough idea of what the actual hashtag is, and you can look at that and then go, oh, is that something we want to jump into? Is it something we don't want to jump into? Can we have some fun with that? Is it a way to show a more casual side to our brand, or a more serious side to our brand? Again, most hashtags are fairly self-explanatory, but that can give you, for the few that you're looking at going, right, I don't see why that's, a really popular hashtag at the moment. You can go there, have a look, and see what it does and says for you. Now, so again, here's a wee case study of one that was done by Volkswagen. They promoted a hashtag on Twitter to highlight their sponsorship of the Planeta Terra Festival, which is in Brazil. And what they did was they said, listen, we've had festival tickets all over the city. They could have done this using something like Rapido, but they just did it quite plainly with Twitter. And the idea was that the more people who shared the hashtag, the more details of the tickets' locations would be revealed, taking it from the very general sort of location to a very specific location, making it easy for people to find the tickets. And this paid off for them. It became a hashtag trending in Brazil. It trended elsewhere too. And it became a trending topic in Sao Paulo within 2 hours. So very, very quick indeed. And stayed there for 4 days. So that's something that did very, very well, and only Volkswagen can tell us if they considered that a win or not, because did people see that hashtag and associate it back? Did people make the link? Do people still now associate that hashtag with Volkswagen, or is it something just associate with the event? So again, bear in mind, if you're doing this sort of thing, or do something with a hashtag, but bear in mind what's a win for you, and make sure people know where it came from. Burberry also did one that they considered a win, but many other people would say it was perhaps a bit of a fail. They had a model, well, they didn't have a model, but a model in the third Transformers film wore a Burberry dress to the film premiere, and they put that out there. It's a very nice picture. No one's going to object to looking at that dress. And basically, people said, yeah, that's nice. But was it the target market? Because for most people, the Transformers film was either aimed at geeks or boys, or the mid-20s male market, and not a section of groups, sorry for the stutter there, a section of groups who would quite happily look at pictures of models like Rosie Huntington-Whiteley all day long. But are they likely to go out and buy Burberry? Perhaps not. Similarly, the people who might be interested in the address, the female side of things, are they going to be clicking on the Transformers hashtag in the first place? Not necessarily, and I don't mean that in a sexist way, because I do know there are girls out there who like Transformers, and similarly there are boys out there who like Burberry. It's a very small combination subset. So there may have been a better hashtag that could have been used there, or a better picture, because most people would have clicked on a hashtag of something called Transformers expecting to see a Transformer. And quite frankly, I don't think there's enough material on that dress to see if it could transform into anything else except a handkerchief. Now, away from semi-naked people, something else that hashtags have been used for in a very positive way is blame Drew's cancer. And this is a tale of someone unfortunately diagnosed with cancer, and he's blamed everything for it. And what's made this special is that companies have got involved and they're donating for when Blame Drew's cancer is used, and that's a fantastic gesture. And people have been quite creative and quite interesting as well, in that they've blamed nearly 35,000 things on Drew's cancer, and that's a fantastic fundraising initiative. So, well done to all concerned there. Now, we mentioned earlier on as well this idea of trending topics, and these are keywords that have seen a spike in usage at that time. Some people go, well, hang on, why do some words spike and some words don't? And the official line from Twitter on this is that if something becomes popular in a short space of time, it will start to trend. If something's consistently popular, say Justin Bieber or so on, then it's less likely to trend unless it spikes again. And similarly, some things may spike regionally, they may not spike on a large global level. And hashtags seem to trend the most for very obvious reasons. But that doesn't mean other words can't as well. Movie stars' names, footballers, actors, these things all trend from time to time depending on what's happened. Most people learned of Michael Jackson's death via the likes of Twitter, which then spilled out onto Facebook and other digital platforms. And Gigwise has used this well in the past. There was John Terry jokes going out regarding allegations of his private life, and Gigwise jumped out there with a Dear John playlist, and that they had a link in there to that, and that drove traffic back to their website, and that did everything right in social media. They cut. It was quick, it was cheeky, it was humorous, and it wasn't a stretch to have a Dear John playlist for John Terry, and it was timely because it had happened that day. So that's the sort of thing to bear in mind. They could have done that on Facebook as well and elsewhere to help drive traffic too. But it's that idea of being topical and quick that can pay off for you so well. And promoted tweets are tweets with a little difference in that they're paid for tweets, so that they're more forcibly inserted into people's streams. And normally, in fairness to Twitter, it's people who have shown an interest in a topic, but at the same time they're very little more than adverts that just turn up. And some companies claim success with them. Again, as with all forms of social media advertising, I think you get a better budget spent in actually curating fresh, original, new content instead of just, a quick paid-for ad. And that's not to say that you can't have, a fresh, original, interesting take in advertising. It's just not necessarily something I think is the best use of it. But Virgin America clearly disagreed with me and, decided to take tweet ads out for promoting things like their in-flight Wi-Fi service, and to also promote their customer service, and they've used hashtags with it as well, and it's played out quite well for them. They've had people talk about films they're watching, geek moments, or to give away discounts, and it's worked perfectly well for Virgin America. They believe it's been very, very successful, and that's fair enough. And again, as with all things involving social media, just consider why you're doing it, if you want to do it, and if it is the best use or best spend of your money. Now, while it is only 140 characters, or 120 if you've been listening earlier, the idea is that there are rules. There are social rules as much as anything. You may not be able to own a hashtag, you may not be able to own your Twitter name outright, because of this idea that technically the rights are still with Twitter, but there are rules. There are rules of how to behave. And they come down to the same rules that you would have anywhere else online. Be open, be honest, be yourself, be professional. Don't try to be fake. Build relationships. But follow people you don't know, that's fine. You don't even have to ask them if you can follow them. You just click the follow button and away you go. And if someone's boring you or just isn't relevant to you anymore, feel free to unfollow them. Again, you don't need to tell them. You can if you want. There are tools out there that will tell people when you've unfollowed them. So you may even find someone gets in touch and says, "Excuse me, why have you unfollowed me?" And you can tell them why, or you can just come up with an excuse to spare blushes all round. But similarly, just as there are do's, there are don'ts, and don't automate, and don't automate to just spam people. I believe you should use tools like Hootsuite and TweetDeck to schedule tweets throughout the day and make life easier for yourself so that you're not running to and from a keyboard. But don't automate things just for just to annoy people and to thanks for the follow. Here's a link to buy my goods. That just annoys people. It's just not the best way to do things at all. And while social media does inflate your sense of self or your sense of ego, don't sit and talk about yourself all the time. Twitter has this thing called the 7-2-1 rule, and it applies to a lot of social media. And the idea is that for every 10 tweets, 7 should be about something else or someone else, or in conversation, or being helpful to others. 2 can be indirect promotions of what you do, and 1 gets to be an absolutely blatant call to, please come buy our product, or this is what our product wants to do for you, and include a link. And again, always just be nice to people. And that shouldn't need said, but one thing to always bear in mind is what may seem like gentle teasing or sarcasm to you may be deeply offensive to someone else. So have an idea of, conversational tone, and, have emoticons handy as well, perhaps to prevent any sort of fallouts. Now, obviously there's lots of things we've said throughout this presentation that are technically best practice. 120 tweets, the 7-2-1 rule, all these little sort of things build up to good ways of engagement with people on Twitter. And there's other things to consider as well. Let's have a look, for example, at Carnival Cruise Lines. More than 40,000 fans, lots of engagement, but is there anything else they could be doing? And yes, there is. They could separate their customer service from their main Twitter account so that one's used more for promotion and one's used for solving problems. Now again, bear in mind there's no right and there's no wrong way of doing it. So, what they're doing is perfectly fine, but it may well be by doing that, it could get them even more benefits, even more followers, even more people talking about them, and ultimately even more people buying their cruise services. And again, turn your tweeters into your brand ambassadors. Make sure that it works for you. Have them talking about you on a regular basis. And if you want, tie that in with Foursquare or something else to, offer the good incentives for people to do it. And follow your customers back. Build that relationship. I've spoken before in the past about clearly I've spoken before in the past because you don't get I've spoken before next week. I've spoken about hotels that follow people to get a better idea of what they like, or to build a long-term relationship with them, or to surprise them when on a trip with them. And that's an absolutely great idea. It's a nice gesture, it's a nice touch. You don't have to be on top of every tweet they do, and you don't have to be in touch every single day of their lives, but it is a nice way to build a relationship. Now, Cirque du Soleil has nearly 500,000 followers on Twitter, and they do things a little bit differently in that, amongst their offering on Twitter are some special offers and exclusive events and information. And this works because despite the way they have so many followers, they're not following everyone back, so there's an extensive exclusivity there. But on top of that, they do share things a lot, and they share things that people will find interesting. And at the same time, well, we might say they're not following everyone back, they are following more than 35,000 users. So it's still a lot of people. And for them, they have to just not make sure that they're just tweeting and nothing else. As with all good Twitter programs, as with all good social media, it's about reaching out, and making sure see the tweeters in real life, see them on their blogs, send them pictures, have them engage with you. Again, for all of this talk about using digital tools, it's about using digital tools for engagement. So remember that, using the digital tool is not the end goal. It's the engagement and the positive engagement that is the end goal, and preferably positive engagement to drive profit. Now, obviously, as with all tools, there has to be an element of measurement here. And there's a lot you can do. And again, it comes down to knowing what you want to measure. Do you want to measure the number of tweets, the number of retweets, the number of followers, the number of mentions, your sentiment, how many people link to something. There's a lot you can do. And again, tools like Hootsuite make it a lot easier for you. Just as you can have columns set up for mentions of you. And remember, you should also always set up a column for mentions of you that aren't your Twitter name. So, for example, if someone wants to get in touch with White Mackay, very often they'll put @White Mackay, all one word, and that's fine. But similarly, some people may not realise White Mackay's on Twitter, or they may be wanting to talk about it and thinking White Mackay won't be noticing anything that doesn't mention them by name. So you also have to set up a search tab for White and Mackay, just in the same way that you would set up a Google search. And that's what's been done here. There's a column there for give it a ponder, and you can see all mentions. And that's just a very simple functionality tool by Hootsuite. And again, if you use a link shortening service, as it mentions there, you can track the links, see how they've been used and shared. And that's fantastic, because again, it gives you access to this level of information. Pardon me. It lets you see, where the number of your clicks, where they're coming from, what's been most popular. And again, using these tools works very, very well for you. And again, that's just to show you, in Hootsuite, if you click on something, you'll see, all the sort of information you can be given at a fingertip. Another tool that can be very handy for measurement is tweet reach, in that you can put in a hashtag, or you can put in a Twitter address, and it will give you back a number of details. It will tell you the reach and exposure of a tweet. And now the free service doesn't give you everything. It only covers certain aspects. Now there's limitations to the service, but this is the sort of information that it will provide you. It will show you how many types of tweets there's been. Was something retweeted a lot? Was it just a normal tweet? When it comes to the exposure, there's been more than 2,000 impressions. And the question then is, well, if that's the case, who's responsible for these? And it breaks that down for you on the right hand side. So if you've been tweeting away, let's use this screen as an example. You've been tweeting away, trying to reach social media types, other sort of digital engagement strategists and so on, and you see that Alina Popescu is responsible for nearly 1,800 impressions. Now, if you've never heard of Alina Popescu, you may want to suddenly start going, well, hang on, we better build a relationship with this person. They're responsible for a lot of people who get seeing about us, so let's make sure we build a strong relationship with her, so that people, so that she has a reason to keep tweeting us, and more of her followers will hear about us. Similarly, if Nonstop Mama, who's at the bottom of that list, had been one of your key contacts, and that sort of impression back you're getting, you could go, well, has it been a blip? Was there something in the content that we did wrong? Because again, never just put your content out there and think it's perfect every time. Different things appeal to different people in different time zones in different countries. And the beauty of Twitter is that you can do things quickly. You can make sure there's posts scheduled. You can make sure there's relevant material for the right people to see at the right time in the right place. And as with all good things about social media, it just takes a little bit of practice, but also, very fortunately, it just takes a little bit of engagement and sharing yourself.